Welcome to Wild West Garage. My name's Morgan, and that is a jaw crusher that I just finished building. It's more or less done. Built this for my wife. She's into pottery, and a lot of times, not just her, but the people that she works with, they'll make something and it doesn't turn out right, and they don't realize it until it's dry, and then so they just put it through. Like, well, my wife's been smashing it with a hammer to break it down, but this is going to save her a lot of time, and they'll be able to process a lot of material in a short period of time with this machine. So I made a video of making the shaft for this, the eccentric shaft, and I asked if anybody was interested in seeing me build this thing, and a couple of my subscribers said they would be interested in it, so that's what we're doing in this video. So this is going to be the main structure of the crusher, and so I was thinking originally of making the width of the mouth, the crushing mouth, 6 inches wide, and then I thought, well, I'll go 8 inches wide, but then these two I-beams work out to almost 7 inches across the gap here, so I'm just going to go with that. See, I'm just going to space this out a little bit before I weld it to get 7 inches. So I don't know what they call this thing, but it's the interface between the rail and the tie on a train track. So you can see where the spikes go through here, and there was a hole there and a hole there, but I've welded those holes up. There's another hole there, and another hole right there that I welded up. So on this thing, it's going to be kind of curved. I guess it'll have 3 facets to it. I've seen some movable jaws that are curved, so this will kind of, I guess, mimic that somewhat. I'm gonna have to weld this up like this and then fill in underneath it. This is going to be the top, so it's not going to get a lot of crush action right up here. It'll mostly be down, like from here down. There it is, all fabricated together. So just a little cleanup on it now. I'm going to weld another plate on the top here. Actually, that's the top at a 45-degree angle. And you know, I should have realized this, because I'm not entirely new to this kind of thing. But what I should have done is, there's some bracing I got to put on the back of this, kind of wedge shape, go up and around the bearing. I should have put all that stuff on first, because this plate is kind of, with all this heat and welding on the top side, it's kind of bowed it opposite to what I wanted. But anyway, it's going to be fine. It's going to do what I want it to do. It's just that if I ever do another one, I'll put that bracing on the back first. So now there's going to be a fixed plate in here. See where this opening is going to be? There'll be a fixed plate that works opposite of this plate. So it'll be right in here, right all the way down to the bottom, or this, well, this is the bottom, but you know, top to bottom. And it'll have ribs on it too, but they'll go in between these ribs. Just got this mocked up here. Got a vice grip for a crank. Got the pillow blocks just vice gripped on here. And I'm using my foot as a toggle. If you don't know what a toggle is, I'll explain that later when I show you how I make that. But I just wanted to see how this thing worked. Let's get my foot in the right spot so you can see how that moves in there. And so you throw a piece of material inside, and gravity and the action of this thing it's got to turn in a certain direction. It's got to turn in this direction that I'm turning it. And it sort of helps it to self-feed as well. So the gap gets tighter and tighter at the bottom. And the stuff comes out small, goes in big at the top, comes out small at the bottom. There's the more or less finished jaw. I had to add a little piece on the bottom here because it wasn't going to extend through the bottom of the frame. And I added these, oh, that's my head. I added these studs on here so I could bolt an apron, like an apron chute or whatever, some fabric or rubber or something, just to make a chute into a bucket. So there's just to help contain the dust a bit. So I have to machine a keyway in the shaft. So what I'm going to do to find the center is I'm just going to come down on this and mill this off a little bit with this surface milling tool here. I don't know what you want to call this. It's a milling thing. So I'll make a flat spot on the shaft, and then I'll make a flat spot as wide as the keyway needs to be. How about that? And then I'll take another tool and I'll machine it out. I've got a little side, like a little cutter wheel. I'll chuck it up in the chuck and cut that out. So there's the first pass. It looks pretty parallel, so I just got to go down a little bit more, make it a bit wider. Okay, there we go. Pretty much right where I want it. I don't think you can get much better than that. I thought I'd made it too wide, but perfect. So I ended up using an end mill. I was going to use this because I found it earlier, but that would have meant that I'd have to turn the shaft 90 degrees, and this just made more sense because I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to move this. It would have been a lot of kind of messing around to get this surface here 90 degrees to the table. So this was a more logical way to do it, and this end mill was exactly the right size, so just made sense to do it this way. Okay, I don't know if I showed this yet or not, but this is the toggle, and this is just made out of had this really long bolt for the round stock, and then just a piece of, I guess it's 3/8. So this goes in here. So basically it's going to be at an angle about like that, I guess. And so when when this thing starts, like this is the jaw, when it starts to oscillate, this thing, because it's at this angle, it's not say if it was 90 degrees, it would still do it. It's gonna end up pushing the bottom of this in and out like that, because this is going to be swinging. So when it's on an arc, so it's going to let the shoe get further closer and further away, like it just can oscillate up against the fixed jaw. And anyway, so this goes in here, and I don't know if you can see there's an insert in there. And I don't know what these are. I just picked them out of a scrap bin somewhere. And I've got this one here too. Some kind of slide for something. Maybe somebody recognizes this. The other one, oh, here's a part number. If anybody knows what that is. Looks like LH, maybe means left hand. UNNRUK 4461525. So some kind of slide for something. Anyway, so I'm gonna have this one on this side. This will be inside the frame, fixed into the frame, the main frame. And then on the end, on the side here, I'm gonna cut a little window in the thing that holds it, so I can slide shims in behind here to adjust the gap at the bottom of the jaws. Look at this, how this worked out. There's that keyway that I cut in the shaft, and then I cut a slot in the spacer, and I had to make this keyway. Just a hunk of mild steel. I guess keyway's mild steel, I think. I'm sure this is going to work. It's not going to shear off or anything. Anyways, it's time to assemble this so I can tack on the bearing tabs for the 1-inch bearing tabs, and I'll have this thing semi-operational in no time. So just a little word of advice here. If you're building yourself a big heavy assembly like this, and you think you're going to need to drill some holes in this little part of it at some point, drill the holes first before you weld this thing onto this behemoth thing. I don't know what it weighs, but it weighs a lot. And just wrestling it onto the drill press and you know, all that. I don't have to go to the gym now. Okay, we're getting close. Gives you an idea what the finished thing's going to look like. Then I'm going to build a kind of a chute around here, just like a hopper. So you can just keep dumping stuff in, and this will form part of that. Right now, so I'll just have a piece out here. That'll keep junk off the bearings and the shafts too. Okay, first thing to ever be crushed with this thing. This is a fired piece of clay. Just swallowed it. Okay, I've got a 1/4-inch shim in behind the toggle bushing. So this is the same stuff I crushed the first time. Going through again. One Morgan power. And this is, ow, bit me. Got my hand in one of the spokes. Now I'm bleeding. Why did it stop? I'm really bleeding. I gotta stop. Got a 1/4-inch shim and an 1/8-inch shim. And I cut my finger again. I got 3 wounds in the last half an hour. this had a motor on it, would be chopping through this pretty fast. There we go, that's the last of it. There's some stuck in there. Anyway, it works. I think my toggle's kind of binding. Got the angle off, but I think it'll wear itself in after a while. Okay, here's the back side of the movable jaw. And so originally these studs were here, but this ended up being inside the frame of the machine, so it was just right flush, kind of like flush with this. So I could have just left those studs there, but it just was a lot easier to move them out here, because I ended up putting bars on this extension piece, and that's why I added, because it was actually still in the crush area, I would call it. So then I had to add all this material in here to beef it up. So it's kind of morphing a bit, turning into a bit of a function over form project. But like some of the fabrication is turned to scabrication. Anyways, it's going to do what I want it to do. And of course I didn't have like a drawing or anything for this. I was just building it out of my head. So it's turning out pretty good. So I'll flip this over and I'll show you the other side, and we can move on, keep going. Just about got it finished. There's the working side of the jaw, more or less cleaned up. A little bit more cleanup to do on it, and then you can see where I added these ribs here. So this is now what this used to be, this area here. It's just an extension of the jaw, so I can attach a skirt on here. So yeah, I just got to clean up the inside of the housing here now, and then I'm going to put this back together. And this is a rod which will have a spring on it, just to keep the movable jaw tied up against the toggle. So it's a kind of a return spring. This is just this is a brake pedal rod that came with a master cylinder that I didn't end up needing. So I got the machine line on its side here, and I've made this kind of opening with this raised cover or raised sides to it, and it's welded a couple of nuts on there, so you know the screws go down through these holes. And then I've got my shim pack, so I can adjust the opening of the bottom of the jaws. And then there's a tab here. See that tab? It just goes up against this bushing so that it stays centered. And that's about it. Just got to do a little trim on here because it's interfering with my shims. And I'm pretty much good to go here. I can put this thing back together, get the motor wired up, and try it out with the motor. It doesn't seem to work. Weird. I'm going to try speeding it up. I mean, it is working, but it's just way slower than I thought it'd be. just needs more weight on it. Like, just gotta keep filling it up. I think that's the key to making it work. Stuff's just too light. Well, it works, sort of. I think, like, everything I've seen suggests that this thing should run in this direction. But I'm going to try it. I'm going to try reversing the motor and see if it works better. I tried it in reverse and it didn't work better. This is what it produces. There we go. I think that's good enough for what we need. So I've gone ahead and added a hopper to this thing. So you can see it's, you know, it's quite a large opening. So you could take a whole pail of clay shards and just start, you know, just dump it in there rather than putting it in by hand. And it's sort of, I made it come up and sort of a guard against the pulley as well. You know, likely if you're working with this thing, you're not going to be standing over on this side. I could put a cover on there. You know, maybe I should, but you know, common sense. It's just stay away from the moving parts. Is how I do things. And and then when I was putting this back piece in, I thought about making it so I could take it out, because if I need to remove the jaw at any point, I'm probably going to have to cut this. And so that was my reasoning. I thought, well, if I have to take the jaw out, I'll just take a zip disc and cut up here, and then I'll put some kind of a flange on there, and then I can bolt it back in. So I'll worry about that when I have to. I don't know how much of this I showed as far as the motor mount goes. It's just a bar welded in place here, pipe over top of it, a plate for the motor to bolt to. So to change the speed of it, you just lift it up, loosens the belt, and it doesn't seem to need any tension on it. It works just fine like that. Just the weight of the motor holds it tension enough. I may add a tensioner on it at some point. I think even just drill a couple of holes in it and put like a little hook here or something, and you could put a bungee cord around it. That'd probably be enough tension. Anyways, yeah, no, it came together really nicely. I mean, it's rude and crude, but you know, it's going to do the job. I'm not going to paint it. I'm not going to clean up this rough edge here or anything. It's just the way it's going to be. It's just something for smashing clay, so it's going to do that just fine. All right, so I got that out of my system. You know, I've always wanted to build one of these. I don't know why, but I just found it interesting. If I was going to do it again, which I likely won't, I would build it bigger, stronger. But anyways, it was an interesting project. I like building things. I hope you enjoyed, you know, some of the video. I hope it inspires you to go out into the shop and build something. So anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks for hanging around, and we'll see you next time.